The research vessel hovered above Earth's atmosphere, its oval shape gleaming in the sunlight. Inside, two alien scientists prepared for their descent to the blue planet below. Nari adjusted her environmental suit, checking the seals around her slender wrists. Her skin had the pale yellow tint common to all Drixians, with fine scales that helped conserve moisture on their desert homeworld. "Are you seeing these readings?" Tak called from the control panel. He was taller than Nari, with the same yellow skin but darker markings across his forehead, signs of his senior scientific rank. "The humidity levels are even higher than our briefing suggested." Nari moved to his side, her large eyes widening as she studied the numbers. "Over 60%. That cannot be right." She tapped the screen with a thin finger. "No living being could survive such wetness." "Yet they do," Tak said. "Billions of them." Their ship, the Eridus, began its controlled descent through the clouds. Both scientists fell silent as they passed through the water vapor. Tiny droplets formed on their viewport, a phenomenon neither had witnessed before. "Water," Nari whispered, "suspended in air." Their home planet, Drixia, had less than 5% of Earth's water. What little they had was carefully managed, recycled, and treated as the precious resource it was. The concept of water falling freely from the sky remained theoretical to most Drixians. "The mission briefing mentioned rain," Tak said, "water that falls from the sky regularly. I still find it difficult to believe, even seeing these clouds." The Eridus continued its descent, breaking through the cloud layer to reveal the landscape below. Both aliens gasped at the sight of vast, blue oceans, green forests, and winding rivers. "So much water," Nari said. "It's everywhere." Their landing coordinates directed them to a facility in a region humans called South Korea. The International Research Center had been prepared for their arrival, the first official scientific exchange between Earth and Drixia. As the ship touched down on the landing pad, Nari felt a flutter of excitement. She had studied human biology and culture for 3 cycles, but book knowledge could never replace direct observation. "Remember your training," Tak said, checking his translator device. "Humans are mostly water themselves. Their customs reflect their watery environment." Nari nodded, adjusting her own translator. "And they express emotions through water secretions from their eyes." "Tears," Tak corrected, "though I hope we don't cause any." The airlock hissed open, and for the first time, Earth air flowed into their chamber. Even through their environmental suits, they could feel the difference: heavy, rich with oxygen, and carrying moisture unlike anything on Drixia. "It feels like breathing soup," Nari said, her breathing apparatus working harder to filter the air. A small group of humans waited at the bottom of the ramp that extended from their ship. Nari studied them with scientific interest. They were shorter than most Drixians, with round eyes and varied skin tones. One stepped forward, a male with short black hair and glasses. "Welcome to Earth," he said, bowing slightly. "I am Dr. Jun, lead scientist for the exchange program. We are honored to host the first Drixian expedition to our planet." Tak stepped forward and attempted the same bowing gesture, though his longer spine made it awkward. "I am senior researcher Tak, and this is biologist Nari. We bring greetings from the Scientific Council of Drixia." Dr. Jun smiled. "We have prepared quarters for you with environmental controls set to Drixian standards. Would you like to rest, or would you prefer a tour of our facilities first?" Before either alien could answer, a low rumble sounded overhead. Dark clouds had gathered during their landing. "It seems the weather is changing," another human said. This one was female, with long hair tied back. "We should get inside before." The sky opened up. Water began falling in drops, light at first, then heavier. Both aliens froze, staring upward in shock. "Is this rain?" Nari asked, her voice barely audible over the pattering sound. "Yes," Dr. Jun said. "Just a light shower. Nothing to worry about." For the humans, it might have been nothing unusual. For the Drixians, it was like witnessing magic. Water, freely falling from the sky, landing on the ground without being collected or preserved. How much water falls like this? Tak asked, still staring upward. It varies by region, the female scientist answered. In this area, about 1,400 millimeters per year. Both aliens looked at her in shock. On Drixia, that amount would supply a small city for a full cycle. We should continue this discussion inside, Dr. June suggested, noticing their discomfort. The rain may increase, and your suits aren't designed for heavy precipitation. They followed the humans into a large building. Inside, Mary couldn't help but notice water everywhere, in clear containers on tables, flowing from metal fixtures, even decoratively falling in what the humans called a fountain in the entrance hall. These are your private quarters, Dr. Jun said, leading them to a suite of rooms. We've adjusted the humidity to match Trixian standards. There's a communication panel if you need anything. When the humans left, Nari and Tak carefully removed their environmental suits. The air was drier here, more comfortable for their moisture-conserving bodies. I knew Earth was wet, Tak said, but seeing it is different from reading reports. Nari moved to the window, watching the rain continue to fall. They let it hit the ground, she said. All that water, just falling. Our mission is to learn their water management technologies, Tak reminded her. Perhaps they have methods we haven't considered. A soft chime interrupted them. Dr. Jun's voice came through the communication system. Once you're settled, we'd like to introduce you to the research team. Also, Chef Min has prepared a meal with ingredients similar to those found on Drixia. We will join you shortly, Tak responded. As they prepared to meet the research team, Nari studied her reflection in a mirror. Her yellow skin seemed particularly bright against the earth-toned room. Do you think they find us as strange as we find them? She asked. Tak considered this. Probably. But that's why scientific exchange is valuable. Difference creates learning. They left their quarters and followed the directions to the meeting room. Inside, several human scientists waited. Some looked nervous, others excited. Dr. Jun introduced each one. This is Dr. Hana, our hydrologist. She'll be working closely with you on water purification systems. A female human stepped forward. I study the reports on Drixian water reclamation. Your technology is remarkable. Necessity breeds innovation, Tak said. When water is scarce, you learn to preserve every drop. The meeting continued with introductions and explanations of the research project. Throughout it all, Neri found her attention drawn to the windows, where rain continued to fall. When a break was called, she approached Dr. Jun. May I touch it? The rain. He looked surprised, then nodded. Of course, there's a covered area where you can extend your hand without getting too wet. He led her to a doorway with an overhang. Nari cautiously extended her hand into the falling water. The first drops hit her skin, and she pulled back instinctively. On Drixia, exposing skin to unfiltered water was rarely done. It's cold, she said. Spring rain often is, Dr. Jun explained. Nari extended her hand again, this time leaving it in the rain longer. She watched as droplets rolled off her water-resistant skin. On our world, she said quietly, this would be considered a miracle. Dr. Jun studied her with new understanding. I never thought about how miraculous rain might seem to someone who's never experienced it. Tak joined them, cautiously extending his own hand to the rain. We have much to learn from each other, he said. This is only the beginning. As they stood there, three beings from different worlds watching water fall from the sky, Nari knew this mission would change more than just water technology. It would change how both species saw their worlds and each other. Nari walked down the hallway of the research center, following the sound of rushing water. After 3 days on Earth, she still found herself drawn to water noises. On Drixia, water made little sound. It was too precious to allow splashing or flowing freely. She pushed open a door marked Hydrology Lab and found Dr. Hana working with several clear tanks. Good morning, Nari, Dr. Hana said, looking up from her work. You're up early. The sound of water woke me, Neri explained, pointing to the tanks where water circulated through various filters. On my world, hearing running water usually means an emergency, a broken pipe or failed seal. Dr. Hannah laughed. I never thought about that. Here, it's so common we barely notice. Tak entered the lab, carrying a data pad. The rainfall measurements from yesterday are fascinating. More water fell in 1 hour than a Drixian citizen is allowed to use in a month. Speaking of water use, Dr. Hannah said, Dr. June mentioned you had questions about our cleaning facilities. Both aliens looked at each other with slight discomfort. Neri spoke first. Yes, we observed the cleaning chamber in our quarters, but we're confused about its function. You mean the shower? Dr. Hannah asked. If that is what you call the small room with the water spout above, Tak said. Our briefing mentioned humans use water for cleaning, but we didn't fully understand the process. Dr. Hannah tried to hide her smile. Yes, we stand under the water to clean our bodies. The flowing water rinses away dirt and dead skin cells. We use soaps to help with the cleaning. You stand under falling water. Voluntarily. Neri's voice rose in disbelief. On Drixia, we use sonic vibration chambers. No water is wasted. How much water does one shower use? Tak asked, already calculating in his head. An average shower might use 65 liters of water, Dr. Hannah said casually. Both aliens stared at her in shock. 65 liters, Tak repeated, for one cleaning. That would be a year's personal allowance on Drixia. Neri added, for everything. Drinking, cooking, personal use. Dr. Hannah looked embarrassed. I never realized. We try to conserve water, but clearly our ideas of conservation are very different. Later that day, the aliens joined a tour of the facility's water management systems. They stood now in the building's basement, examining large tanks and pipes. This is just one of our water storage units, Dr. June explained. We collect rainwater from the roof to supplement our supply. Tak studied the simple system with professional interest. Efficient, though I notice you don't have molecular reclamation filters. Our filtration is primarily designed for particulates and biological contaminants, Dr. June said. What are molecular reclamation filters? They extract water molecules from waste materials, Neri explained. Nothing containing moisture is discarded on Drixia without first being processed. As they continued the tour, they passed through a cafeteria. Neri noticed something strange in the corner, a metal box with a spout. What is that device? She asked, pointing. That's a water fountain, Dr. June said, for drinking. Curious, Tak approached it. How does it operate? Just press that button on the side, a passing researcher suggested. Tak pressed the button. A stream of water shot upward. He jumped back in alarm, nearly colliding with Neri. It's shooting water into the air, he exclaimed. Several humans in the cafeteria tried not to laugh. Dr. June quickly came to their side. You're meant to lean over and drink from the stream, he explained gently. It's designed to be convenient. Convenient, Neri echoed. Shooting clean drinking water into the air is convenient. I suppose from your perspective, it seems wasteful, Dr. June acknowledged. The unused water does drain back into the system, though. Tak composed himself, embarrassed by his reaction. Your species has such a casual relationship with water, he noted. On our world, every drop is accounted for. That afternoon, rain began falling again. From the safety of a covered observation deck, the two aliens watched humans moving about outside. Some hurried with covers called umbrellas, but others simply walked through the rain, getting wet without concern. Look at those small humans, Neri said, pointing to children jumping in puddles of water. The young ones, Tak corrected. They're called children. The children laughed as they stomped in the puddles, sending water splashing in all directions. On our world, this would be considered criminal waste, Neri whispered. Yet here, it's play. Dr. Hana joined them on the deck. "Do Drixian children have games?" she asked. "Yes, but none involving water," Tak explained. "Water is never used for recreation." "Never?" Dr. Hana seemed surprised. "No swimming? No water sports?" "Swimming?" Nari asked. "What is swimming?" Dr. Hana stared at them. "You don't know what swimming is. Of course, if water is so scarce." She paused. "Swimming is when you immerse your body in water and move through it." Both aliens looked horrified. "Immerse your entire body?" Tak asked. "In water?" "Yes. Humans do it for fun, exercise, and sometimes as a survival skill if they fall into deep water," Dr. Hana explained. "How deep?" Nari asked cautiously. "Some swimming pools are over 3 meters deep," Dr. Hana said. 3 meters of water. Tak's voice was barely audible. "In one place, just for fun." That evening, a small group gathered in the research center's media room. Dr. June had suggested showing the aliens videos of Earth's water features to help them understand the planet better. On the screen, images of massive waterfalls appeared. Niagara Falls thundered down, enormous volumes of water crashing over cliffs. "This is all fresh water?" Nari asked, her voice hushed with a mixture of awe and horror. "Just falling." "Yes," Dr. June confirmed. "There are hundreds of large waterfalls on Earth." The video changed to show people on water slides, laughing as they slid down into pools. "These humans are enjoying the experience," Tak asked, watching people deliberately plunging into water. "Very much so," Dr. Hana said. "Water parks are popular entertainment." The final video showed ocean waves crashing on a beach. People surfed on the waves or played in the water's edge. "And these large bodies of water, these oceans, are salt water, correct?" Tak asked. "Yes," Dr. Jun said. "Not potable without desalination. Yet there's so much of it that humans play in it," Nari observed. "It's difficult to comprehend." After the videos ended, Nari and Tak returned to their quarters. They sat in silence for several minutes, processing what they had learned. "I knew Earth was water-rich," Tak finally said, "but seeing how they use it, fountains that spray water into the air, rooms where water falls on you, children jumping in puddles. Their relationship with water shapes their entire culture," Nari agreed. "They don't fear its loss because they've never experienced true scarcity. Their technology reflects this abundance," Tak noted. "Their filtration systems are designed for purity, not conservation. Their storage focuses on distribution, not preservation." Nari moved to the window, watching raindrops slide down the glass. "Do you think we could ever understand each other fully? Our worlds are so different." "That's why we're here," Tak said. "To build understanding. Tomorrow, I'll ask Dr. Jun more about these showers. Perhaps there are elements of their water usage that could be adapted for Drixia. And I'll continue studying their rain collection systems," Nari added. "Even in abundance, there are lessons to be learned." Outside, the rain continued to fall, a phenomenon still magical to the aliens but ordinary to the humans. Two perspectives separated by worlds of experience, attempting to find common ground in the universal need for water. The morning light filtered through the laboratory windows as Neri carefully removed a thin membrane from its protective case. The yellowish film was nearly transparent, developed from native Drixian plants that survived on minimal moisture. Dr. Hana leaned closer, adjusting her microscope to examine the material. "The molecular structure of your filtration membrane is fascinating," Dr. Hana said, her eyes fixed on the magnified image on her screen. "I've never seen anything like it. The way it selectively allows water molecules to pass while blocking even the smallest contaminants. It took our scientists 12 generations to develop," Nari explained, handling the delicate material with practiced care. "These membranes can extract moisture from almost any source, even from air with just 5% humidity." Tak entered the laboratory, carrying several data tablets. His yellow skin looked paler under Earth's lighting, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Dr. June approved our joint experiment, he announced. We can begin combining our water purification technologies immediately. The three scientists moved to a larger workstation where equipment from both worlds had been assembled. The Drixian technology looked almost artistic next to Earth's more industrial designs, curves and spirals instead of straight pipes and rectangular tanks. Our necessity bred innovation, Tak explained as he calibrated a small device. 1 drop on Drixia equals 100 on Earth. We cannot afford to waste anything. Dr. Hana nodded. Earth's approach has been different. We have abundant water, but increasing pollution. Our challenge is cleaning water, not finding it. For hours, they worked to integrate the two systems. Nari's hands moved with precision as she connected the Drixian membranes to Earth's more powerful pumps. Tak programmed the control systems while Dr. Hana monitored water quality readings. Try increasing the flow rate, Nari suggested as they tested the hybrid system. Our membranes can handle more pressure than your standard filters. Dr. Hana adjusted the settings, and the monitoring equipment showed immediate results. The efficiency is improving. Contaminant levels dropping below measurable limits, and using 30% less energy than either system alone. Tak added, studying the readings with satisfaction. The laboratory door opened as Dr. June arrived with several other researchers. How is the integration progressing? He asked. Better than expected, Dr. Hana replied, unable to hide her excitement. The Drixian membranes combined with our pressure systems are achieving purification rates we've never seen before. Dr. June examined the data. This could revolutionize water purification in drought-affected regions. If we can scale this technology, we believe we can, Tak said. But the real breakthrough came when Nari suggested incorporating your biological filtration with our mineral catalysts. Nari, typically reserved, stepped forward. The microorganisms in your systems consume contaminants our physical filters might miss. By adding our mineral catalysts, the microorganisms become more efficient, processing heavy metals and complex chemicals faster than either system alone. A true collaboration, Dr. June said, smiling. This is exactly what we hoped would come from this exchange. That afternoon, as the scientists continued refining their new system, Dr. June approached the aliens with a suggestion. You've been working nonstop for days, he said. Perhaps it's time for a break. I'd like to take you to experience something uniquely Earth, a natural lake. Tak and Nari exchanged glances. The idea of seeing so much water in one place both frightened and fascinated them. We would be honored, Tak said finally. An hour later, they stood at the edge of a small lake nestled among green hills. The water stretched before them, rippling slightly in the breeze. Birds flew low over the surface, occasionally dipping down to touch the water. It's even more impressive in person, Nari whispered, her eyes wide. So much water, just existing. Dr. June smiled. This is actually a small lake by Earth standards. Some are thousands of kilometers wide. Tak shook his head in wonder. On our world, this much water would be stored in sealed underground reservoirs, filtered, measured, and distributed by strict quotas. Would you like to touch it? Dr. Hana asked, noticing how the aliens kept a careful distance from the water's edge. After a moment's hesitation, Nari nodded. Both aliens followed Dr. Hana to a small dock extending into the lake. Kneeling carefully, Nari extended her hand toward the surface. It's safe, Dr. Hana assured her. The water is clean. Slowly, Nari lowered her fingers until they broke the surface. The cool water touched her skin, and she felt the unusual sensation of water freely flowing around her fingers. On Drixia, touching unprocessed water was rare. Most water was purified and dispensed in precise amounts. It feels alive, she said softly. Tak joined her, dipping his hand into the lake. The water seemed to respond to their movement, rippling outward in small circles. Our skin is absorbing some moisture, he observed, examining his fingers. The sensation is pleasant. Dr. Hana smiled. On Earth, many people find water soothing. Swimming in lakes like this is considered relaxing. After some gentle encouragement, both aliens agreed to remove their protective footwear and sit at the edge of the dock with their feet in the water. This level of contact with natural water would have been unthinkable on their home planet. Our bodies are actually designed to conserve moisture, Neri explained as they sat there. Our skin absorbs water more efficiently than human skin. In ancient times, before our planet's climate change, our ancestors could absorb enough moisture through skin contact to survive droughts. That's remarkable, Dr. Jun said. Has your physiology changed much since then? Some, Tak replied. We've adapted to need less water, but our absorption ability remains. That's why direct contact with large bodies of water like this is so unusual for us. We're actually taking in water through our skin right now. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the lake, the scientists remained on the dock, talking about their worlds. The aliens described Drixia's red deserts and precious underground water caves, while the humans shared stories of Earth's varied water features, oceans, rivers, and rainforests. I've been thinking, Neri said suddenly. Your world has too much water in some places, causing floods, while ours has too little everywhere. If we could somehow transport water between worlds. Interplanetary water sharing. Dr. Hanna considered. The energy requirements would be enormous. But the technology we're developing together might make water use so efficient that Earth's excess could be stored long-term, Tak suggested. Not for immediate transport, but perhaps in the future. Dr. Jun nodded thoughtfully. Every scientific advancement begins with an idea that seems impossible at first. As they returned to the research center that evening, the aliens carried more than just the memory of touching a lake. They carried new perspectives on water, not just as a resource to be measured and conserved, but as a living, flowing element that connected all life. In their laboratory the next morning, Neri made a surprising suggestion. What if we designed the system to mimic natural water cycles? She proposed, sketching a circular flow pattern. Earth has perfected water purification through evaporation and condensation over billions of years. Biomimicry, Dr. Hanna said, nodding enthusiastically, using nature's designs to improve technology. Together, they reworked their hybrid system, incorporating elements inspired by Earth's rain cycle and Drixia's moisture-extracting plants. The result was even more efficient than their previous design, using 40% less energy, while purifying water to standards higher than either planet had achieved alone. We came seeking your technology, Tak told Dr. Jun as they reviewed the final test results. But we found something more valuable, a new way of thinking about water itself. Dr. Jun smiled. That's the true value of scientific exchange, not just sharing what we know, but discovering what neither of us knew before. Outside the laboratory window, rain began to fall again. This time, neither alien flinched at the sound. Instead, they watched with newfound appreciation as Earth shared its abundance, one drop at a time. The sun rose hot and harsh over the research center for the 10th consecutive day. What had begun as pleasant spring weather had transformed into an unseasonable heatwave. No rain had fallen for 53 days, a normal condition on Drixia, but increasingly concerning on this part of Earth. Tak stood at the large window of the monitoring room, watching the dry landscape. The grass that had been green when they arrived now showed patches of yellow and brown. The reservoir levels dropped another 3% overnight, Dr. Jun reported, reviewing the morning data. We're approaching critical conservation levels. This is nothing compared to our dry seasons, Tak said, turning from the window. On Drixia, we would consider this mild, but your systems are designed for abundance, not scarcity. Dr. Hanna entered the room carrying several data tablets. The Weather Service reports no significant rainfall expected for at least another 2 weeks. We need to implement additional water conservation measures immediately. The research center housed over 200 scientists and staff, plus the experimental gardens and laboratories that consumed substantial water resources. As a remote facility built for specialized research, its water systems were largely self-contained, a design choice now proving problematic. "I've called an emergency meeting in 30 minutes, Dr. Jones said. "We'll need both of you there to discuss Drixian conservation methods we might implement." When they gathered in the conference room, tension was visible on the human faces. Neri noticed their expressions matched those of Drixians during water shortages. Worry lines around eyes, tight lips, nervous glances. "Our situation is concerning but manageable," Dr. Jun began. "Current projections show our reserves will last 40 days at normal usage. However, if we implement strict conservation, we can extend that significantly." "What measures do you normally take during droughts?" Nari asked. Dr. Jun gestured to a list on the main screen. Restricted showering times, no landscape watering, limited laundry services, and recycling of gray water for non-potable uses. Tak and Neri exchanged glances. These strict measures would be considered wasteful luxury on their world. "If I may," Tak said, standing, "I believe we can suggest additional approaches that might help." He moved to the front of the room. "On Drixia, we use moisture extraction units in all air handling systems. Every breath humans exhale contains water vapor that can be captured." He displayed designs from his data pad onto the main screen. Complex but elegant systems that pulled moisture from air. "We also use body moisture reclamation suits during extreme shortages," Nari added. "They're uncomfortable by your standards, but they capture and recycle perspiration and breath moisture." Some of the humans looked uncomfortable at this suggestion, but Dr. Hanna nodded thoughtfully. "We could adapt the principle without requiring full suits, perhaps moisture-capturing masks and armbands for exercise periods." Dr. Jun made notes. "What about our research operations? The botanical division uses the most water." Tensions rose as different department heads defended their water needs. The argument grew heated when the head of the botanical gardens, Dr. Min, stood up. "These plants are irreplaceable specimens," he insisted, his voice rising. "Some are endangered species that require precise moisture levels. Cutting their water by even 20% could kill decades of research." "So is each drop of water," Nari countered, surprising everyone with her forceful tone. "On Drixia, we would say that one living researcher is worth more than 1,000 plants." The room fell silent at her words. Dr. Min's face flushed with anger. "You come from a desert world. You don't understand Earth's biodiversity," he said stiffly. "These plants aren't just research subjects. They're part of complex ecosystems that support all life, including yours and mine." Tak recognized the tension rising to dangerous levels. "Perhaps there's a middle approach," he suggested. "On Drixia, we develop techniques for minimal water gardening that might preserve your specimens while reducing consumption." Dr. Jun nodded gratefully. "Let's avoid division. We need solutions, not arguments." Over the next hours, they hammered out a comprehensive water conservation plan. The aliens' expertise proved invaluable. They designed a mist-based irrigation system for the botanical gardens using Drixian technology that reduced water usage by 85% while keeping the specimens alive. The mist delivers water directly to the leaf surfaces where absorption occurs, Neri explained as they implemented the system. Almost no water reaches the soil where it would evaporate uselessly. Dr. Min watched skeptically as they converted his traditional irrigation to the new system. "If my plants die, decades of research dies with them," he warned. "They won't die," Tak assured him. "They'll receive precisely what they need, no more and no less." For personal conservation, the facility implemented Drixian showers, 30-second bursts of fine mist that used less than 2 liters of water per person, while still providing adequate cleaning. Many humans found this difficult to adjust to, but necessity overcame comfort. 2 weeks into the drought, a new crisis emerged. The monitoring systems detected dust in the main water reservoir, fine particles carried by increasingly strong dry winds. The filtration system wasn't designed for this level of particulate matter. Dr. Hanna explained during an emergency meeting. If it clogs completely, we lose access to our remaining water. Can we clean the filters? Dr. June asked. Yes, but that requires using water to backflush them. Water we can't spare, she replied. Tak studied the filter specifications carefully. Your filters are designed for biological contaminants, not mineral dust, he observed. On Drixia, dust storms are common. We have emergency filtration systems specifically for this situation. He retrieved a small case from their quarters and returned to the meeting. Inside were what looked like crystals of various sizes. These are sonic cleaning crystals, he explained. They vibrate at frequencies that break dust bonds without damaging filter membranes. No water needed. Will they work with Earth-based systems? Dr. June asked. I believe so, Tak said. The principles are universal. We just need to adjust the resonance frequency to match your filter materials. That night, while most of the facility slept, Tak, Nari, and Dr. Hanna worked to implement the emergency filtration system. They carefully placed the crystals throughout the filter array, then activated the sonic emitter. The vibration should be inaudible to humans, Tak explained as he adjusted the settings. But it will cause the dust particles to separate from the filter surface and collect at designated points. After 3 hours of careful work, they restarted the filtration system. The readings improved immediately. Water flow increased by 40% as the cleaned filters operated more efficiently. Your knowledge of emergency filtration saved our reserves, Dr. Hanna told Tak as they monitored the system. It's what we do, he replied simply. On Drixia, every child learns water conservation as their first science lesson. The dust storm intensified over the next 3 days, turning the sky a strange yellowish-brown. Inside the facility, the aliens felt oddly at home. The dry air and dust reminded them of Drixia. Your planet is showing us its Drixian face, Nari commented to Dr. June as they watched the storm through reinforced windows. A face we're not well adapted to see, he admitted. This facility was built 15 years ago, when this region received reliable rainfall. Climate patterns have shifted faster than our infrastructure planning. That's something our worlds share, Nari said. On Drixia, our ancestors built in areas that were once fertile. As the planet dried, they had to adapt or perish. And they chose to adapt, Dr. June said. As must we. By the 60th day without rain, the research center had transformed its operations. Water usage had dropped to 15% of normal levels. The botanical specimens survived on carefully calculated mist cycles. Humans adjusted to brief water exposures and moisture-recapturing clothing. Your Drixian methods feel less strange now, Dr. Hanna told Nari as they calibrated the moisture reclamation system. What seemed alien 2 months ago now feels necessary. Necessity changes perception, Nari replied. What was once seen as hardship becomes normal when there's no alternative. As the facility settled into its new conservation routines, the aliens' knowledge, born from their planet's harsh conditions, continued to prove invaluable. What had begun as a scientific exchange had become a lesson in survival, with Drixian expertise helping Earth face a future where water abundance could no longer be taken for granted. The first drops fell quietly, almost unnoticed. It was Neri who heard them. Tiny patters against the laboratory window as she worked late analyzing soil moisture data. She froze, tilting her head to confirm the sound wasn't equipment noise. Tak. She called softly to her colleague, who was calibrating instruments nearby. Listen. Both aliens went still, their large eyes widening as the sound increased. The soft patter became a steady rhythm, then a drumming as water began streaming down the windows. Rain, Tak whispered, the word carrying a reverence new to his vocabulary. The facility's drought alert system activated, its gentle chimes spreading through the building. Within minutes, humans appeared in hallways, moving toward windows and exterior doors, their faces showing relief and joy. Dr. June hurried into the lab, his usual composed demeanor replaced with excitement. It's finally here, after 64 days. The rain had returned after more than 2 months of drought. Throughout the research center, humans gathered at windows or stepped outside under covered areas to watch the water fall from the sky. Nari and Tak joined them, standing beneath the protection of an entrance overhang. The scent of wet earth, a smell the aliens had come to recognize during their time on Earth, filled the air. "Would you like to go out in it?" Dr. Hannah asked, noticing how intently the aliens watched the rainfall. Tak hesitated. "Our environmental suits are not designed for direct water exposure. We've modified some protective gear that should work," Dr. Jun said, holding up lightweight transparent coverings. "If you're interested." The aliens exchanged glances. During their months on Earth, they had touched water, dipped their limbs in it, even learned to use the modified mist showers. But standing directly in falling rain remained an experience beyond their imagining. "Yes," Nari decided. "I would like to experience this." Once properly protected with the modified coverings that would keep most of the water from direct skin contact while allowing them to feel the sensation, they stepped out from under the overhang. The rain immediately began striking the protective coverings, creating patterns of droplets that slid down around their bodies. "I never understood the human expression, tears of joy, until now," Nari said, watching droplets collect on her arm. The sensation was unlike anything on Drixia, water literally falling from above, surrounding her completely. Other research staff had come outside too, many letting the rain fall directly on them, some even lifting their faces to the water. Dr. Min, the botanical researcher who had argued so fiercely about his plants' water needs, stood with his eyes closed, face upturned. "The plants will recover quickly now," he said when he noticed the aliens watching him. "You were right about the mist system. It kept them alive with minimal water. I've decided to keep using it, even with the rain returned." Over the next week, the research facility returned to normal operations, but with significant changes. Many of the Drixian conservation methods remained in place, the humans having recognized their value even with renewed water supplies. The combined filtration system you and Dr. Hannah developed is being implemented in drought-prone regions worldwide, Dr. Jun told Tak as they reviewed data in the main laboratory. "Early reports show 40% better efficiency than our previous best technology. And the moisture extraction systems from your air handling units have been adapted for water-scarce regions in 3 continents, Dr. Hannah added. "The design is being called revolutionary in addressing water poverty." Nari looked up from her workstation. "Our success came from combining approaches. Earth's abundant biological diversity created solutions neither planet could have developed alone." The aliens' time on Earth was scheduled to end soon. Their research mission had been planned for 6 months, and that time was nearly complete. As the departure date approached, the facility organized a farewell ceremony. In the main gathering hall, humans and aliens came together. The mood was both celebratory and tinged with the sadness of impending separation. "When your ship first landed," Dr. Jun said, addressing the assembled group, "we expected a scientific exchange. What we got was something far more valuable, a new perspective on our most precious resource." He held up a small device, the prototype of their combined water purification system. "This technology will help millions of people, but more important than the technology is the lesson behind it. Scarcity breeds innovation, and different worlds can solve problems together that neither could solve alone." Dr. Hannah stepped forward next. "The drought was unexpected, but it proved to be our greatest teacher. It showed us that Drixian knowledge, born from hardship, could help Earth prepare for a changing future." As they prepared to depart, Dr. Jun presented them with a small container made of crystal. "Water from Earth's oceans, mountains, and skies," he explained as Tak carefully accepted the gift. "A reminder that resources shared create abundance." Inside the container, water from different sources had been carefully separated, each layer representing a different Earth environment. The bottom layer held deep ocean water, dark blue and dense. Above it floated clearer water from mountain springs, then river water with its slight green tint, And finally, at the top, collected rainwater, perfectly clear. On Drixia, this will be considered a treasure beyond value, Tak said, his voice thick with emotion that surprised even him. It will be placed in our Science Academy's most honored display. Nari added, each drop contains Earth's story, a story we will share with our world. The following morning, the aliens made their final preparations to leave. Their ship, the Eridus, had been loaded with data cores containing research findings, samples of Earth organisms for study, and the technological prototypes they had developed together. As they walked toward the ship, they passed through the botanical gardens where Dr. Min was working among his plants. The specimens that had nearly died during the drought now showed new growth, vibrant green leaves, and even some flowers. Your mist system saved them, Dr. Min acknowledged, setting down his tools to join them. I was wrong to resist your methods. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective to see a better way. At the landing pad, the entire research team gathered to say goodbye. Humans who had initially viewed the aliens with curiosity or caution now embraced them as colleagues and friends. The barriers of different worlds had dissolved through shared work and shared crisis. Dr. June spoke the final farewell. Our worlds could not be more different. One blue with abundant water, one red with precious little. Yet we found common ground in science and survival. Aboard their ship, Nari and Tak watched Earth recede, its blue surface shimmering like a jewel against the blackness of space. They had come seeking water management technology, but had found something far more valuable. We came to study water, Tak noted in the final log entry, but discovered something more valuable, how different worlds can flow together. Nari added her own observation. Humans view water differently than we do, as something beautiful and joyful, not just necessary. Perhaps on Drixia, we can learn to see our limited water with similar appreciation. The ship accelerated toward home, carrying more than data and technology. It carried new perspectives that would change how both planets viewed their resources, their challenges, and each other. In the research facility on Earth, the scientists continued their work, now incorporating Drixian approaches into Earth's water management. The drought had ended, but its lessons remained. Lessons about conservation, adaptation, and how seeing through alien eyes could reveal truths hidden by familiarity. The hybrid filtration system became the foundation for a new generation of water technology, more efficient, more accessible, and built on the principle that scarcity and abundance could learn from each other. And in both worlds, water, whether abundant or precious, was viewed with new understanding. On Earth, humans began to see water with the reverence Drixians had always known. On Drixia, scientists began to explore water's beauty alongside its utility. Two different worlds, two different relationships with water, one shared future, flowing together like streams joining to form a river.